Saad, it's been a minute since we've had a show, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
Welcome, Stomp Strong, episode 24. And, man, it's been a couple busy weeks for us.
Yeah, like, we've had a lot going on, so, man, I don't think we've done a podcast in, like, 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's been at least 2 for sure. I
Right.
think maybe
Yeah.
maybe 3, but I think we got off a week and we did a Wednesday, so we skipped.
Right.
I think it's been 2 total, maybe like in a few days.
Yeah,
But it's been a minute, that's for sure.
Because the last one we did was the Wednesday before we was leaving for Arizona for the training with Haley Strategic. And then we wanted to do one.
No way we were doing it there.
Yeah,
Impossible.
we was shot.
No, yeah.
super
We're going to
tired.
talk all about the
Yeah.
training today, so that's what the episode's about. We might as well just get into it.
Sure.
Okay, so we went, Saad turned 52 quite recently, and
Yes.
for his birthday about, I don't know, maybe 8-9 months ago? I don't know, a long time ago, he brought up going to this training
Right.
for his birthday, and I said, hell yeah, and Travis Haley is just like before I went into the training, I knew a little bit, but I didn't really know anything about him. You know, I was like kind of like hoping we would kind of see Jim 4 because he was hanging out with him a lot.
Right.
I was really glad to get the training.
Yeah.
I was really happy. We were excited to see the instructors because you were talking about a guy who had no legs. And Haley was, you know, obviously the man, but I was going there for a lot of reasons. I was going there for your birthday. I was going there to maybe meet Forward, to definitely train. And then it just turns out we met like Captain America.
Sure.
I mean, it's just kind of weird.
Oh yeah, Travis Haley's a phenomenal individual. He's very well known for his shooting skills and for his training. My bias towards Travis, you know, how I sort of picked him out was because after, you know, I did 33 years in the Navy, and although we have brotherly love with the Marine Corps, we tease them back and forth, and you know, we have back and forth banter. But the Marines, man, I have an incredibly high regard for Marines, and Travis Haley was a Marine. He was a recon Marine, which is Marine Special Forces. They're tasked with going behind the enemy line, providing intel and data to the MAGTF, which is the Marine Air Ground Task Force, and that's the world Travis came from, and that was the training he had, and he's built on that, like, just incredible. I mean, his real world combat experience is, you know, like comparable to anybody out there.
Yeah.
And then what he did in the Marine Corps as a recon Marine, and then what he did as a contractor afterwards, some amazing
Stuff a legend.
combat experience in you know, in Iraq and in other areas, and then he transitioned into the civilian world. He was the CEO of Magpool for a while, which anybody that knows about Magpool, you know, everything from guns to sunglasses to
Yeah, I'm still
slings.
running. I found out the sling
Okay.
I've been running for like 10 years.
Right.
He designed it, apparently.
No
the,
kidding, yeah.
the MS2.
Sure.
He said
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
I run a Magpool sling on both my rifles. Magpool makes great product. Plus, you know, I got Magpool furniture for my AK. Magpool makes a lot of stuff. And then now Travis has broken off and made Haley Strategic, which I'm rocking this shirt.
Yeah.
He's all about this dragonfly, and it's adapt, because the dragonfly has adapted to its environment over, you know, thousands of years. And it only has 2 jobs in the world, the dragonfly. It hunts and it mates, and then it lives for like 30 days. So it's an exciting 30-day life of the dragonfly. But that's Haley's symbol. And so Travis had just so much respect for him and for his experiences. And so that's when me and Stomp were talking about doing specific training on the AK-47, AK-74, you know, just the AK platform. It's like, well, who do you want to train with? And it's like, man, Travis Haley. You know, like,
I didn't even know he did a specific AK class, so when you told me that, I was like, I didn't know he's doing that. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever, let's go. What do you want to do? Let's plan it. So it was an immediate plan, and we, you know, we got in the Prius, and it's an amazing amount of room in that car, and I've never been in one before, and we started a 13-hour. Odyssey, and I figured I'd be driving about every 2-3 hours, and we'd go back and forth. And so I just got in and wheeled it out, and never really got tired. Kind of like a robot, sort of.
Yeah.
Like you only hit the rumble strip, I think, 2 times in 13 hours. That's not bad at all.
Sure.
So, Saad, we talked the whole time. I don't go to sleep. I'm a good passenger, and I'll keep you busy. And we get to Arizona, and we get hooked up at the hotel, and we're walking in with so much gear. I mean, I'm taking in 2 guns. Saad's taking in 1. I have like 7 back. I mean, this whole Prius is just loaded down.
Yeah.
And the whole time we're driving, I mean, I'm just seeing the craziest landscapes.
Yeah.
I mean, just really cool, like shelving of like stacked up limestone and huge cactuses, like 20-foot tall cactuses all over Arizona, everywhere you go. And we just get there the first day, and we got accentuated and hunkered down and went to sleep early, and we got up early, and we went straight to the headquarters, and we assumed that the headquarters and the range were the same place. And that was an assumption,
Sure,
and not a good one,
right?
Because they're totally separate places.
Right, yeah.
So we spent. How long do you think we spent the first day at the center?
Probably 3 or 4 hours, and because he went over a lot of theory, because one of Travis's philosophies is he's looking for thinkers, not shooters. He wants you to focus on thinking, not on shooting. So think and then shoot, which man, I'm really down with that philosophy. And what was cool is to sort of reinforce that, like we spent probably like 4 hours in his headquarters, just classroom instruction. Of course there was introductions, people in the classroom and of the instructors, but talking about his philosophy of shooting, showing different positions, describing what we was going to do on the range, and
Just
sort of
hours of how the AK works on ballistics,
right,
expectations for success, how to do prone by showing us on some graphs, and then some shoot sticks to show angles, explaining why you were doing things. Just a bunch of knowledge, really.
Sure.
I mean, I took some notes, but it was like I didn't know most of it for sure. But it was almost like getting you set up and ready to go out to the range. There was going to be a certain amount of time that they got to know you. I think they were getting to know us a little bit too.
Right.
And but there was like 20 people in the class, and it was a interesting experience because the instructors were teaching the first day, and Haley was doing something, and he came in at the end of the day.
Sure.
And the instructors were like a pretty eclectic group. It was like a retired cop who looked young.
Yeah, Josh.
Josh, he looked like he's like in his 30s, and he retired like narc cop or something, like gang cop. Yeah. And then his wife, who was a air marshal.
Yeah, that's right.
And she had cancer, and she couldn't come back because of the cancer. Right. And then there was, what was the horse guy's name?
Jared.
Jared was the most interesting because he raised horses and was a thoroughbred horse guy from Texas.
And he runs a training company out here, out in the Waco area. I say like 212 training. It's 2 something. Maybe it's 270. I'm sorry, Jared, if you're watching this. I forgot the name of your company, but
we will definitely anecdote we can put the hashtag in at the end.
And I would definitely recommend
all of them.
Yeah, because we went out there because of Travis and his reputation, but you knew that any of his instructors were going to be top notch.
Yeah, and they weren't what I expected.
Yeah, because I thought because military guys have a tendency to be around military guys, but Josh was a police officer. Yeah. That was his background, and Jared didn't have a military background either. So I was like, oh wow, this is cool.
Interesting.
But then one of his other instructors was a Marine, and he's the one that he had lost both of his legs. So there were military guys like Travis, and I forgot the guy's name who had lost his legs, because he was moving phenomenally. Like Stomp, I had to tell him the next day. He's like, "Yeah, we didn't get to see the guy that lost both of his legs," and I'm like, "No, he was there."
Yeah, I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah, you just didn't notice.
You couldn't tell. I mean. he wasn't wearing shorts. So that would be the only way you would know.
But you would think like he would walk like more.
Yeah, there was some type of tell.
Right, and like we're out in the desert terrain, and it's just amazing how he was able to walk.
Yeah.
Like so normal you wouldn't realize that.
I didn't know he was no legs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He walked so amazing.
And this is enough walking that by the end of the course, I had lost 2 toenails.
Wow. Yeah.
So and I didn't run.
Sure.
It was just the walking and stopping and the constant up and down and probably throwing myself down a couple times. But literally like 2 toenails are black.
Right.
So it was a lot, but it wasn't. But we kept ranging like okay. Okay, so we go from the first day, and then we go immediately into sighting in.
Right. Yeah.
And the sighting in is not like anything I've ever done before.
No.
It's
total different philosophy. Like, what was all 3 days, we spent like the first couple hours of all 3 days on the range, sighting in our weapons.
At least.
And that was really one of the most different philosophies I'd ever seen. Like. Most guys I know, whether military or civilian world, like once they sight in their optics, like they're done, and they would shoot you if you in some way cause them to lose, how they had zeroed it in. Like, once they get that, whether it's the red dot, whatever their optic is, once they get it, online and perfect for their standards, like they don't mess with it no more. Where Travis was like, oh yeah, I'm okay with like, let's readjust, let's keep fine tuning. Like there was never
Well, what we're not explaining is most guys like sight in it like 25 yards and then 50 and then 100 and that's it.
Yeah.
But no. We did 25, 50, 100, 125, 150, 175,
right.
and prone at 150 and 175, and there was shifting occurring where he was making us like build a picture of our sight-in process to see where we were hitting, as opposed to if we need to bring our dope, which is where you set your original red dot, up a little bit so that we can hit at 100 yards a little bit high and 200 yards right in the chest and 300 yards right in a little bit high area. So you're hitting in, however it works out, you're able to hit all in the same area out to 300 yards is what he was getting us set up for.
Right.
But what he was doing was teaching us how to see the patterns, and he would have you mark the holes and put a group average, a line to the right.
Right.
And these targets are set up pretty interesting. And so the sight-in process was fascinating because, I mean, like you said, it was a 2-hour sight-in process sometimes. And some people were able to build on their sight picture, and it worked the second day and they were good, and then it worked the third day and they were good.
Right.
And then some people were not.
Yeah.
And me and Saad were not.
Yeah.
So we had immediate issues. We both did.
Right, sure.
What you talk about your issue?
Mine was I had purchased a new scope to go to the course for my AK-73. And it was a 6-power scope from Primary Arms. And then I decide on the first day, I'm just going to go with the iron sights. And then that was a challenge because we're going from the prone, everybody next to you as they shoot. Like, anytime I've zeroed weapons in before, like I'm sitting at a bench someplace, or maybe I'm prone.
Pissed.
And, like, here I am, like,
next
laying prone. Sand is blowing into my face every time Stomp shoots.
Every time I shoot.
And then, like, there's a brush that's in the way of my target.
Thorn bush.
And it's just like, it was just really frustrating. And, I had to stop, get up, walk it off, get a drink, and then come back to it and work it. So the first day I tried the iron sights. And then I was like, man, let me go back and do my optic. So the second day, I had my optic, and then what I found is my optic works. I have a good sight picture when I'm standing with the optic, but when I was prone, I could never get a good enough sight
cheek well
picture.
was off on the folder.
And so, the solution would be to get a longer butt stock, but I don't want to modify the Russian AK-74. So my solution was I gave my optic to my son, who's got a West German G3.
That it would work
And
great on.
yeah, he's already installed it on his G3, because I was gonna like just sell it on Gunbroker, and then I was like,
You had to have that cheek well, even on the gun I have built for that from Dissonant Arms.
Yeah.
When they rebuilt my Vepr,
Right.
so I could use my optic.
Right.
I kind of learned that, and I was trying to tell you, you better work that cheek well and get it to where you can, because if you can't get a cheek well, you're not going to be able to use it. And we had to learn it through experience, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing the same thing. We're both showing up with brand new optics on brand new guns, basically. Saad's had this gun for a few months.
Sure.
But I got a gun that's a week old, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, I just got my gun from Meridian Defense. I take my RMR Trigicon off my pistol because I want it to be nice and light and sick.
Yeah.
And I buy a mount, and I put the RMR on, and I start trying to sight in this RMR, and every time we make an adjustment, it's going crazy. It's just going wider and wider out and wider out, and the whole first day was blown as far as shooting.
Yeah, as far as zeroing it.
As far as zeroing and shooting on target, the whole first day for me was toast until we got to 150, and I was like, fuck it, I'm by the car. Yeah. I grabbed my keys and went and grabbed my definitive arms and came out and got on paper at 150 and 175 cold out of the car on something that I've been taking to the range a long time.
Sure. Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. Having a second gun that I could pull out and actually get on paper for the first time that day. I had a huge smile. I went from being really... I was fucking pissed.
Sure.
I mean, I was smoking mad that I couldn't get this $600 optic. I got perfect eyesight on it. And I checked all that out. Sure. That was sick. Right. I'm ready to go. And I can't get it dialed in. Right. So it turns out, I don't know if this is my optic problem or maybe I switched the polarity on the battery, but when I move it right, it goes left. And when I move it up, it goes down. So when you're following what it says to do on it, it's not the right way.
Sure.
So I don't know why that optic does that. I know it doesn't make sense, but those dudes at the Haley's boys had a hard time with it too, and they're like, you got to get rid of this optic. Right. And I just got a different gun, took it off that night. I brought a different red dot because I was like, if there's a problem, I want to have a backup. Right. Right? Yeah. I threw that bad boy, put it on, came out the next morning, and was able to sight in no problem. Right. So day 2, I'm actually breathing a little bit, but I'm dead physically. Like, you don't understand how tired I am. I can't walk very far, period. Yeah. Like a mile or two. Normal hiking, but this was a lot more than that, and it was back and forth constantly, just range walking. It was a weird activity for me, and it was a lot of activity for me. And I knew day 1 I had to do something about some seating because there's no seating on the range. Yeah, sure. There's nowhere to sit. And I was going to just plop down in the dirt at some point. I didn't care. I was going to do whatever it took to take this class. But I found a little stool, a shooting bench, and it probably weighed like 40 pounds. I dragged this thing around for 2 days. Yeah. But I did drag it around for 2 days, and I finished the class, and I did everything except the sprints because we'll get to that in a minute. So we sight in the first day, and then we start doing all kinds of interesting things like combat reloads, and then what was the other name for the other one?
I don't know if they called it rhythm shooting, but we was doing rhythm shooting.
Well, what was the second reload? The combat reload is you got to dump the top off reload, whatever that was called, and then the empty reload.
Right. We did those 2, and then we focused on.
Then we did all
the jams.
Then we did all the 4 different kinds of jams. Jams I've never seen. Yeah. Jams I've never seen. He made us like get our gun all stupid and put in rounds and smash them into each other and all kinds of weird jams. And so the whole first day was manipulations, really. Yeah. It was jams, how the gun worked, doing different mag dumps, a little bit of shooting, like on the 5-yard line, on the 10. I can't remember exactly the drills we were doing, but not too much. But a lot of jams and a lot of shoot out the gun, empty, boom. That's what we were doing. Just shoot the gun 2 rounds, empty, put a new mag in. Just a lot of learning how to do it properly and safely, because that was a big emphasis. Well, I think we had 5 instructors or 6 the first day.
Yeah, and it was always safe on the range.
Yeah, there was. I was never nervous once.
Right. Yeah.
Were you?
No.
And what's weird is out of 20 people on the line, nobody was off.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't tell anybody that was like a loose cannon or anything.
Right.
Maybe the New York guy to us, but he was just loud.
Sure.
But he wasn't like nerve-wracking or anything. I liked being around him. He
Right.
had the pen and everything. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it was great. I mean, the obviously he knows how to pick a class. There was no problems.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, like it was really a great circumstance where like all our fellow classmates, all 20 of them, they were just a good group of people from diverse backgrounds. Some had military backgrounds. Some had never been in the military. There was a gunsmith.
Yeah, he might have been our age. He was like our age, I think.
So it was like a lot of cool people. And then the instructors were phenomenal.
Oh, first day, guess we forgot to say who we met the first day. So the first day, right after Haley comes in,
Sure.
he introduces himself and comes in, and he's just kind of an intimidating dude. The way he starts talking at first, to me, not that he was intimidating, but he's kind of serious.
Yeah.
And then when you get to know him, like outside of that a little bit, like he's rolling around on a one wheel on the range, and he's cutting jokes, and
Sure.
he's a really funny dude, having a good time all the time. So the serious is serious about training.
Yeah.
The serious is serious what we're doing here.
Right.
But he was really personable. I mean, crazy personable to me. And then the first day, I turn around like this, and I see like I'd never been starstruck before, man. I seen like football players and stuff at the club, and people that were famous, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's Lawrence Taylor, and go up and shake his hand.
Sure.
But Jim Fuller was behind us, and I'm like, wow. So Jim Fuller, A.K. God, legend.
Yeah, he's like
builder extraordinaire.
The primary guy as far as pioneering the AK in the United States. Jim Fuller's like, he's the guy.
Yeah.
And he's the founder of Rifle Dynamics. He created that company. For years they produced some amazing AKs, both 47s and 74s. So he's like the premier AK builder in the United States. Especially when you talk about customizing a
hand built out of a shop.
Yeah.
He made that popular. Mm-hmm. There were guys doing it before him, but not only one, Krebs.
Yeah.
And Krebs is known, but Jim made it well known. And he abridged the front end, which a lot of companies are now doing, right? So that's now the norm, is to make the front end a lot lighter and bring the gas block and the sight thing together. And
like
so
I say,
Jim did that
imitation
first.
is the greatest form of flattery. It's like, sort of like when Smith and Wesson copied the Glock. Of course they had to settle out of court for taking too much of it.
But yeah,
their weapon. But when they got into the semi-automatic market, but you imitate the best, and a lot of companies are now imitating the things that Jim Fuller.
Well, I mean, there's a reason. When I got this Meridian Defense, and it has that abridged front end, I don't think I could ever carry another rifle. It weighs a whole entire pound less on the heavy part of it.
Sure.
It's just an amazing feeling gun compared to the rest of my guns, and I have some really nice guns. So it's what Fuller did, and I asked him why he did that. And he goes, well, they used to do it to the M4s. Why couldn't you do it to the AK? And I was like, okay.
Yeah. And he sort of brought both worlds, the best of both worlds together. Like,
the M4 stock he did. Yeah.
Because some people say, oh, don't AR your AK, but that's sort of what he did. He brought a lot of the AR technology to the AK, and Americanized it more.
Where you could run a red dot, you could run a flashlight easy with the Ultimac. He made all these words like Ultimac. No one knew what that was until Jim Fuller started putting them on every gun he made.
Right.
And he's like, listen, man, this is going to get the sight up, and it gets it down. It can co-witness, and he was bringing technologies to the AK that no one had ever seen before.
Right. Yeah.
And to have him there at this class, I mean, I got giddy.
Sure. That was
and then he went to the range with us.
Yeah.
And he was one of their trainers.
Right. Yeah. Like he helped us
Day
all
two,
with our rifles.
Day two, he was at the range all day.
Because that was crazy. Like there was people that came with rifles that broke down on the range, and normally you'd never think of an AK breaking down, but like the rifles that broke down weren't
the AKs from Bulgaria or Romania or Russia or China. They were the Gucci AKs that Americans had been fumbling with, and some of them didn't fumble with them very well. And
Yep.
so Jim Fuller was taking these back to the shop and fixing them.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
Or
like,
trying to. One went
Yeah,
down the next day
sure,
again.
right.
But that was an ammo problem.
yeah.
That was ammo got stuck in the wrong. That was apparently that's what he said.
Right.
He got the wrong thing in a Tula.
Huh.
But that's why it went down the second time. But yeah, Jim Fuller's fixing rifles
Right,
from a class that goes down.
Mhm.
And Travis Haley is handing you the rifle the next morning,
Right.
going, "Jim Fuller fixed this." I was
Yeah.
like, "What
Right.
the
Yeah.
fuck
Sure.
did he just say?"
Right, because it was so cool because we had speculated when Jim Fuller, maybe about 9 months ago, announced that he was going to, come out with his own, he was going to make a new company. And we'd speculated that maybe, he might partner with Travis Haley because he had made Travis, some of his previous guns. Like there was a famous AK-74 that he had made for Travis Haley that Haley shot 100,000 rounds through. He had to change the barrel a few times, so they called it the Haley gun. And he only made a few of them, but 100,000 rounds through a gun is just
crazy,
like just
insane.
it's an unreal number. It's more, most people ain't gonna shoot 100,000 rounds in their entire life, let alone through one single gun.
Right.
And Haley did this.
Oh yeah.
And it was a gun that Fuller had made for him. And so we had speculated that
And we
maybe-
saw the Korean Thumb video with
Right.
Fuller.
Yeah.
And they were talking about coming out with
Right.
some new stuff.
Right.
And then I started hitting Fuller up on
Yeah.
Instagram going, "Hey man, you got 2 sales right here.
Sure.
Me and Saad will buy.
Yeah.
Let us know."
And so when we get to the course, our suspicions were confirmed that yes, Fuller and Haley are
together.
in business together. They do have a partnership, and in short order, Jim Fuller is going to be making some crazy AKs again through the Fuller Phoenix, which is the name of his new company. And
that's
Stomp has got his
right here.
thing.
Yeah, that went right
I
on the
got
card.
a T-shirt.
Yeah,
you know,
didn't tell me
got
about the T-shirts. Damn it. It's okay. It's okay.
He's still sore about the T-shirt.
Well, I
And
didn't know
got
he
a
was
Jim
giving
Fuller
out
T-shirt.
shirts.
But there wasn't a double XL. I checked for you.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
you never told me that.
What?
You
No,
were letting it ride.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh,
yeah,
that's funny.
You didn't get a T-shirt too? But yeah, XL, which is what
Yeah,
I normally wear.
I'm not.
I like XLs, and
I'm not gonna fit in that.
no.
No.
So they didn't have one in Stomp size, but yeah, I managed to get that. And then I got my Haley Strategic shirt, and then Stomp got some Haley Strategic shirts.
Yeah, I got one for Beth, and I got the blacked out dragonfly patch,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna wait for another shirt to come in
Right.
because I'm not gonna be able to wear it because they're not talls,
Right.
but I'll definitely wear it occasionally, like over
Yeah.
a long sleeve shirt
Sure.
or something. So yeah, and they have a hoodie I want.
Do you?
And it was so crazy because the second day we start doing like it gets kind of deep pretty fast. I mean,
Yeah.
we start doing like rhythm drills,
Right.
and try to explain this. I mean,
Oh man. Because it's not just shooting fast, pulling the trigger fast. It's the way he focuses on shooting fast is building up. Like maybe you go 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, and then you get that rhythm, and then next it's like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Then after that it might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and eventually you work up your speed. But like if you try to shoot fast from the get-go, it's going to be a problem because shooting fast and shooting accurate are two different things. You don't want to just shoot as fast as you can pull the trigger. So it's like you want to shoot as fast as you can shoot accurately. So whether you're putting the red dot on the target or whether you're lining up the iron sights on the target, and then of course,
he's trying to get your finger to get a rhythm on the brake.
yeah.
So he's trying to marry your finger to the trigger and never get you off the trigger, really.
Mhm.
Almost like how you shoot a Glock.
Right.
So you feel the break and you come back just to the reset, but he's talking about don't slap it, don't stop slapping
Yeah.
the trigger.
Sure.
Stop slapping it. You carrying a cup of water on the front of the gun. Don't bring it up too fast. Don't bring it up too slow. You got to be smooth.
Right.
So it was just a lot of and then we're shooting at like 10 feet.
Yeah.
So if you don't know where the the difference between your optic and your barrel, you're going to be outside of the ring is only this big, so he wants you in this ring.
Right.
And so if you don't know where your offset is, you're screwed. So I'm shooting off the offset, and then the trainer finally comes up and he's like, Stomp, you need to understand where your offset is, because what if you had to make a headshot on somebody at 15 yards and somebody was in front of him or something? He didn't really say that, but that's what you need to know what the offset is in case you have to be precise. So, yeah, there's just a lot going on, and they're counting. So they want you to do it in the rhythm. And we're standing for the first time shooting.
Right.
And then we start moving. The second day, we start moving to those counts.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Sure. Because a lot of people, that don't train for combat, they're always stationary when they shoot. And what they was training us for was like, no, when you shoot in combat, you want to move. You want to get off the X, which is, like when that guy lines up to shoot you, you shoot a couple rounds and you need to move. You don't.
They had
need
us
to
doing
not
a
be
box.
there no
They had us
more.
going forward and then left and then back.
Right.
They were teaching us a box.
Right, because sometimes you're going to lay down cover fire as you back out of a situation, and sometimes you're going to shoot as you walk into a situation.
And this is day 2, right? So now we're walking around and they're doing the clapping and we're walking, and they're like, listen, if you did your 5 rounds before you get to the spot, you have to run to the spot, but you're supposed to be there at the 5 count. We're trying to time you. And then, okay, so that's the slow one. And then at the end, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. And you're kind of running and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, so this drill is getting, it's super, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
You're shooting, walking, and you're having to listen to somebody who's yelling at you, basically. Not yelling at you, but he's telling you what to do, because nobody's necessarily doing it right. There's not one person that went and did those drills on point, except the instructors.
Sure.
And even they had a hard time doing it exactly perfect one time, so it wasn't an easy drill.
No.
And it was super crazy fun. Just the trying to do that was fun. Because we were hitting steel for the first time. So now you know if you're hitting.
Right.
Now we're off paper. We're shooting a third size IPSC target, so it was like a smaller target at 50 yards.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to shoot.
Right.
And we're walking in a box.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was.
You got Haley
really
on
cool.
one side, Jared on the other.
Right. Josh running in between.
Josh running in between, and then they switch sides, and then Jared's counting it off. Haley's kind of yelling at you a little bit. Totally different way of doing it. Still doing the same thing, but stopping you for proficiency. Like I remember Jared and Haley both stopped me because I had a hard time moving left and right with the gun, because I flagged the gun I would turn with the gun a little bit. And they're like, no, you gotta face the target, you're shooting at the enemy. Right. That gun is you're shooting and moving. It stays on the enemy.
Sure.
So they had to stop me because I was being a safety problem. Right. So they did shut down a few things quickly, fairly quickly, when they saw it. And I was one of them a couple times, and that was just from not flagging. I didn't flag nobody. I just turned a little bit. And they're like, no, we're going to stop this right now, and let's come back here and start it again. Right. And then let's do it again. Hold on. And then it was just so they were absolutely correcting you. They weren't letting people get away with things that weren't right, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And a few people had issues, but not too many. You know what I mean? Like, I would say my overall experience, if I had to grade myself, I would say I was a C student by the end of the weekend.
But the thing is, for these kind of courses, like, you don't want to go into these courses and, like, just get everything right. It's like, oh, I know all this. Like, you want to be challenged. You want to learn new material that you don't know. Like, if I would have been so disappointed had I gone into the course and I just knew everything that he was teaching, and, I perfected all the drills, because then it'd be like, well, what did I spend these past 3 days for? I already had these skills. Instead, they made sure that we got skills that we didn't have before we came in there.
I almost look at it like 2 separate sections of my life. Like from 18 to 47, I shot my way.
Right.
And then 1 week, 3 days with Travis Haley,
Right.
and I feel like I actually know something about shooting for the first time. It's weird.
Right.
It's like there's two separate areas. Like one way I was doing it, and I had no idea kind of what I was doing. I was just having fun, plinking. Like I'm a good shot. I know how to shoot.
Sure.
And then one way I'm actually being told like why I'm doing something, why I'm sighting in from here to 175, why that's important. I've never done that before, ever.
Right.
There's no one telling me why any of the things I've done is important. We've always been figuring out on our own. There's no one telling us how to get down in the prone. No one, I've never even gotten the prone until that week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it was a whole brand new, like a second phase of learning for me, and it almost makes me want to like commit to a class a year just to practice with purpose that year. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that's my goal. Is every year, you know, whether it's with Travis Haley or with another team, you know, I just want to train, whether it's the AK or the pistol. And the more training you get, like, you should constantly look for refresher training. And that's something that was instilled, in me through the military, because the military, it doesn't matter how many times I've seen OPSEC, Operation Security Training. I'm going to see it every single year. Like, safety training every single year. Like, once a year, you are getting this training and it's drilled into you. Like Travis was talking about coming back from Iraq, where, they was in numerous gunfights, and his unit was like, okay, cool, great job over there. Now we go back up into our workup. We're going out to the range, and we're gonna spend the day shooting. And, like, he just had finished shooting real life at real enemies, for 6 months to a year, and now he's back in the United States on the range training again. And so there's no
stop.
Okay, I've got it. I've reached the mountain.
This guy trains every day.
Yeah,
he
still trains.
He's training every day.
Sure.
I mean, he was pulling out guns from some of the guys in the class.
Right.
Shooting the 54R on the spot. He was shooting people's stuff. I mean, he was trying the instructor's guns out, finding out what was wrong because he couldn't hit with one of them.
Yeah.
He's like, "What you got wrong? What's wrong with this?" And the guy's like, "Nothing wrong with that." You know what I mean? So he's all over everyone's equipment and checking everything out and making sure everyone's got guns that work. And I mean, it was kind of really kind of. I realized how much he did this when he was on the one wheel, drawn down on rocks, going back to his truck. So he's like on a one wheel, pulling his pistol out on rocks, going. I go, Saad, you see this?
Yeah.
And this dude lives on a range. This is his life.
Yeah, he enjoys shooting.
Yeah.
And like the advantage of shooting multiple weapons is it goes back to a military perspective. Like it could be a battlefield pickup. Like a guy could say, well, I'm in the U.S. Army. We shoot the M4 rifle, which is an AR platform rifle. Why would I need to learn to pick up, to shoot the AK-47? Well, because that's what your enemy shoots at.
Yeah.
And if something goes wrong with your rifle, you might pick up the enemy's rifle. But if you don't know how to use it and you ain't never shot it before, you could have a problem. So it's best to learn how to shoot it. And, like you get used to shooting one particular AK, maybe an AK made by the Russians, and it's like, well, here, let's try this one that's made by the Chinese, or this one that's made by the Egyptians, because it's going to be a little variations. And, get good at shooting those. So the more weapons you're familiar with, the better your opportunities are to, like, if you ever had to use a weapon that wasn't yours, it's like, okay, I've shot this before, I've trained with this before.
I think most guys that are in that class, and me and you, particularly, I can say this for us. We both had time with AR-15s or M4s.
Right.
You M4s, me AR-15s. And we choose to shoot AKs.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily better.
Right, yeah.
They're not necessarily a better gun.
No.
So Haley has one AK class all year long and several M4 classes.
Right.
So his normal gun is an M4.
Yeah.
All those instructors' normal guns are M4s. They normally train on M4s. But he's also probably the best guy I know of with an AK, on an AK.
Yeah.
He shoots out to 700-800 yards regularly with an AK.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of that before.
Right.
There's a range right next to the range we were on that goes right out to a 800 or so right there. I saw it. So he is regularly shooting AKs, and he's one of the only guys training in AKs. So there's not too many AK specific classes.
Right.
So the idea that most guys in that class choose to shoot the AK and probably have M4s as well,
right,
I would think would be the standard.
Yeah.
But you go to the M4 class, I doubt the average guy has an AK.
Right. Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
So AK is a particular platform. We love them for all kinds of reasons, and Haley does too. And Fuller being there was just cream on the cake for me.
Sure.
Being all I shoot is AKs. That's AKs and a couple 9mm pistols. That's it. So the training was just amazing.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So much learning. So much knowledge that built upon for reasons, you know what I mean? Like, this is why we're sighting in this gun, because we want to build a picture so you know what 100, 200, 300 yards look like eventually. And you get good at understanding what your rifle's doing at distance and where the holdover is and how to unload it properly and how to reload it properly and top off loads and all the things that I've never done before.
Yeah.
I've never run my Davrinoff rig never stopped. I never stopped fanning mags in and out. It was constant.
Yeah.
It was, you put your rig on the second day.
Right.
You didn't wear it the first. We all learned, I think, over time. There was nobody that wasn't adjusting something or figuring something out. The dude that was shooting like a laser 25 yards in broke down 25 yards out. Right. It was really strange. Yeah. Some guys were just amazing at certain things, and then certain things they weren't amazing at. And I don't think I was amazing in anything, but I think the class was amazing. I think we built upon a lot of previous knowledge. I think we probably had more time on AKs than most guys there. Correct. I would say. I for sure had been shooting probably longest in the room. Sure. Since '94, I've had a pretty 95. I think I bought my first AK. So yeah, it's just a weird thing. It's almost like it was weird because like when you get into the place, it's just so decked out, so cool. Yeah. Like the whole down spot is just Travis Haley's old uniforms, dressed up on mannequins, surrounded by the gear that he used. They're different, like from the '90s on. So it was just it's like a museum almost. Yeah. And the third day was we did the banana peel. We'll talk about the banana peel. That was the second day.
That was really cool because it was like we was doing with rifles what we used to do in the military. Although the name has changed, but the most familiar name would be, we used to call it an Indian run, which is you would just line up, like maybe there's 40 people, and then you're jogging, but the person in back would sprint all the way to the front and then stop when he got to the front, and then the next person in back would sprint all the way up and then stop. And so in the military we called it an Indian run. I have no idea why it was called that, but that's what we did. So this was it was the same concept. So we started like maybe,
but it was backwards.
Right. Maybe 5 yards, from the target, the metal target. The first person shoots, and then they go to the back of the line.
And we touch the guy's we hold our hand on, we touch the guy's shoulder, so we're 3 feet apart.
Your arm's length apart.
Arm's length.
So each person shoots, and we did that all the way back to like 150, maybe 200 yards.
2 teams of 10 racing each other.
Yeah. So the pressure, it was an artificial pressure, but you felt it because, of course at 5 yards, you're hitting the metal target. 25 yards, it's easy to hit the metal target. But everybody's waiting on you because if you keep shooting until you hit that target.
Sure.
So like you didn't want to be there all day, and because you're also racing the other team.
Somewhere about 50 yards, people started missing.
Yeah, people started missing. And then,
I was like, there's no fucking way we're missing at 50.
And then you're at 150 yards, and you're
I smashed all the way out to about, I would say 90 yards or so. I was hitting good.
Right.
And then somewhere after 100, I had 2 spots where I missed 4 and 5 in a row.
Yeah, sure.
So it was like 4 shots and 5 shots.
Yeah. Because the further out you got, you're like,
okay, should I stand? Should I kneel?
And this
Should I go
target's small.
prone?
This target's 12 by 18.
Right.
Max.
And like I'm shooting with my iron sights, you know, and I'm lining up the iron sights. It's getting darker out there.
Yeah, it's like the end of the day.
You know, the environment had changed, but you knew there was people waiting on you to hit that target, and everybody was going to hear when you hit it. You know, like.
Dude, it was
hear that-
crazy. It was
the metal target
serious,
was like
serious pressure.
Sure. And
Serious.
you just kept going, and you know, sometimes a person might shoot 4 or 5 times before they hit it, but then they hit it and they went,
Yeah.
and then the next person was on, and so it was a really cool drill, but it was a way of, you know, of course it was safe the whole time because you know only the person in the front is shooting,
Sure.
everybody else is waiting, but you know like you felt a little pressure because it was like, hey, I need to hit this because everybody's waiting on me, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what's everybody doing? They're watching you because
Yeah.
there ain't nothing else to watch.
Dude, they're all waiting for you,
You're like,
dude.
when are
It's
you going to hit this damn
9
target?
guys staring at you.
Yeah, so it's
Intently.
like super cool.
Yeah, dude, I turned at 175 or one. The last shot I took,
Right.
I turned on it. We'll say 160 or so. I don't know where I was in the line, but
Sure.
I turned at 160 and it felt good. I mean, I was right on the shot and I
Right.
squeezed it off, dink, and it felt really good. But it was all. It felt so good. I'm like, I'm ripping another one,
Right.
and I go dink, and he goes, "You hit it already?"
Right.
And I go,
Yeah.
"What?" I
Right.
got it on the first shot. I
Sure.
was like,
Yeah.
sick.
Right. Yeah.
At the very end, my
Sure.
last shot, I flubbed 2 of them only out of that whole drill,
Yeah.
which was sick.
Because, you know, like, the further back you go, you know, like, you know, the smaller the window is. You know, like,
Tiny.
and it's like, and then you're making a strategic decision. Do I stand for this shot?
Or do I go
Because-
prone?
When you stand, you're going to get a little bit more movement. You know, where if you go prone, you know, you're more stable because you can dig your magazine into the ground. And
Yeah,
you
they
know,
taught
like,
us how.
there's-
We didn't
yeah,
even talk about that.
There's
Yeah.
not as much, you know, like, variation. And so, you know, like, I stood the whole time
I did
for
too.
each shot. Some of my classmates went prone. Some of them went kneel for their shots. And, you know, so you had to make a strategic decision as people were waiting on you. Like, how am I going to make this next shot? You know, how's this going to go? And so that was really a cool thing.
Yeah, every third shot I would reload. I didn't have any idea how many I had in the gun. I just
Right.
kept topping off in case.
Sure.
But I wasn't sure.
Right.
I didn't know how many rounds I was gonna. And my thought was I could lay down and do one good shot,
Mhm.
or I could stand up and take one and then rip like 4 or 5 or 6
Uh-huh.
kind of quick ones, and probably get it. I could
Yeah.
probably pepper the area
Uh-huh.
pretty fast. That was my theory.
Sure.
Which is what I did.
Right.
When I missed, I was like, kack, kack, kack. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, yeah, I thought about all that though.
Right.
I was like, if I miss one, I'm just gonna pepper it because there's no round count problem.
No.
It's a time thing.
Right. Yeah. You just want to hit it.
Yeah.
And so it was a really
Super fun drill.
Sure.
I mean, I thought about that drill for I think a solid 10 days after the
Yeah.
class. I probably that one drill, and I think about the test a lot too. The test was hard.
Mhm.
Okay, so the second day he gave us a test. I think I scored an 83 that day, and a 73 the next day.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was fatigue.
Right.
I just think I was so fucking tired the third day. I was so dead, dude. I was so tired. I thought I was actually having like a little bit of a heart problem the second day,
Uh-huh.
second night. I was feeling real tight chested for a minute, and then we ate, and I was fine.
Mhm.
Because Saad did all this, like I was eating bullshit the whole time.
Mhm.
Like, not a lot, but I would have like some granola bars during
Yeah.
the day because I was off diet for that week.
Uh-huh.
And Saad stayed and did it all fasting and had no problems with fatigue or anything. The fast works great under a lot of duress. I mean, that was a full 3 days
It
of
was so much fun because it was like for me it was so nice to just be a student and not be an instructor, you know, because what I do every day I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know, like people look at me for the answers, where now I'm in this AK class and I'm just a student, so like all I'm there to do is just learn, and it was really fun for me. And you know, like we did a lot of running, a lot of movement, you know, so we burn a lot of calories. And you know, I put my intermittent fasting, you know, sort of to the test because I believe, you know, as we talked a couple of episodes ago about intermittent fasting, that from the dawn of humanity, that's what we've been doing. You know, like only recently in modern times with refrigeration and agriculture have we been waking up, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know,
convenience. Yeah.
when we was hunting buffalo
No way.
or hunting woolly mammoths,
Yeah,
You
before
weren't
we had
waking up.
before we had civilizations,
Right.
there's no way we were eating 3
Yeah.
meals a day.
And so I think the human body, what I have found, is designed to perform and will perform optimally while fasting, and you do not need the protein bars, the trail mix, the Gatorade, all that other crap. Like, drink water for sure, but all that other stuff, I have found my body doesn't need it. Your body may differ, but I think
Yeah, when I try to explain to people what I do, 22
Right.
and 2, no one even understands what I'm
No,
doing.
no.
They don't even think they think I'm insane.
sure,
They think I'm insane.
but it works.
It totally works.
And
I had a pound of meat before you came over
Right.
and some peanut butter, and
Yeah.
that was my dinner, and I'm done.
right.
And that's it. That's all I'm gonna eat, and I'm gonna feel great,
Right.
and totally, I'll be fine till tomorrow. It's crazy diet, but you had, it really did back up your thought on this because, you know, your tournament's a tournament. It's an X amount of 4 minutes here, 5 minutes here. This was 6 hours.
Right.
The
In
third,
the sun.
the third day was
Shooting.
7 hours on the range.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 10 hours on
We're
the range.
running around.
Yeah,
We're doing
it was
all
a
kinds
crazy
of stuff.
day.
You know, because we did some drills that involved running, running and shooting. You know, so there was a lot going on, and I wanted to see, could my body perform with this while intermittent fasting, like I believed it would, and it did.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like, and that's the constant evolution of, you know, what we discover about ourselves. It's like, you know, always looking for ways to improve, push things to the limit, to see, you know, what this body can do. You know?
Yeah, you know, by the second day when my toes were black, I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
Sure.
This is a crazy weekend. I don't. This is a crazy week. I signed myself up
Because
for.
you went in there with your torn shoulder,
Yeah, dude, I had 7
your
torn
2
ligaments.
historical bad feet. It was like, man, am I going to be able to make it through this course? It's like, and you did.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
yeah. I
with
knew
no problems.
I knew day 2 that I had to sit on something,
yeah.
and I knew I was going to be sitting on the ground the whole time or a chair, and there happened to be something there.
Yeah.
And I had to resign myself to just be the oddball.
Right.
You know, like fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, and no one said a word to me, man. No one cared.
Yeah,
In
like,
fact, some guys were helping me move the goddamn chair
Sure,
because
yeah.
it weighed like 40 fucking
Right.
pounds. So, yeah, it totally worked out. Haley understood. At one point, there was a running drill, and he looked at me and he said, yeah, I think he said it to you, me, and the armor. He goes, if you want to do this, fine, but you got to be safe. That's number 1 rule.
Right.
And it was a drill of running 20 yards and stopping and shooting, and it was at the end of the day. And I was like, man, I'm not even sure if I can fucking walk back to the tables, let alone
Sure.
run right now.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna sit here and watch.
yeah.
And that's the
And
only.
that was a lot of fun for me because,
Yeah,
you know,
you
like,
were
I had
all an
my-
asshole, man.
I got my 2 surgically repaired knees, and like I used to jog all the time until 2014 when I had one knee redone, and I was like, okay, I just stopped jogging, and you know, then in 2018 I had my other knee done, so I got my right knee done, then my left knee done. I don't run anywhere, but he's like, yeah, we're gonna sprint here, shoot, and then you're gonna sprint back, shoot, and you know, like we're gonna do this. You know, if you don't want to do it, Saad, I understand. You know, but if you want to try, you can
There's
try.
3 people he
I'm
pulled
like,
out of the group.
yeah.
Me, Saad, and the other old guy.
Yeah.
The 3 old guys. We were
Right.
the old guys, for
Sure.
sure. We were
Yeah.
by far the youngest age.
Everybody else
past
was in their 20s and
20s. Yeah, everyone was in
sure.
their 20s and
Yeah.
30s.
You know, where, you know, at 52, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
You know, do you wanna do
47, and the
this?
other
Yeah.
guy was probably your age
Right.
too, right? He was right there with us.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, I can do this. And so it was one of the first times I sprinted in years.
And you weren't the slowest one because I watched.
Oh, thanks.
You were not the slowest guy. I figured you'd be
Had
the
a good
slowest
time.
one. You were not.
Right?
Yeah. I was
Had a good
surprised.
time.
You have a little bit of a stiff run, but
Sure.
like a little bit of a Frankenstein upgate run. But
Right.
you know, but who the fuck thought you were going to run
Right.
pretty good?
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Nice.
Yeah. It was badass watching everyone and the people, dude. I mean, everybody was so different, like different personalities. Everybody stepped up to a lot of crazy things they hadn't seen. Like I think a lot of people hadn't shot prone. I think a lot of people hadn't even shot an AK-47 before that weekend.
Yeah.
A lot of people were brand new to the gun. Period.
Sure.
So that was interesting. You had like weird dudes coming out cross training almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a very unique dynamic of the people that were in the class. Had a good time. And then, man, then we made our road trip back, which was...
No. We missed the whole 3rd day, and then what happened at the end? He invited us to a barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
So
Go
we
ahead,
ended up,
tell about that.
there was a knife. He got a new knife that he designed, made for a company, and they were doing a launching party
Yeah.
that day for the knife, and they had just a bunch of people from the shop and the knife company and everyone that worked there, and his R&D people that sew up everything were there, and Fuller, and he had all of us, and just a big party, maybe like 50 people, maybe,
Sure.
and 20 of them were the class.
Right.
So I would say maybe 50 people, and Pizza's from Kirkland, and he gave a speech like I've never heard a speech. I mean, it was like everything that was crazy about the class to me.
Sure.
The craziest part about the class to me was how seriously he talked about shooting a weapon. Everything was life or death.
Yeah.
There was no talking about, we're going to the range to plink. Everything was a guy is shooting at you. What would you do?
Right.
This is happening. What would you? It was very serious in that way, and I wasn't. I've never been any training like this.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm not a military person.
Right.
I'm not around that. I had never been around training like that. I've never been around people that intense.
Yeah.
Like even me, I learned things about you from talking about Haley, right? So it just leads to things where you're talking about things that people don't talk about unless you're talking about it with people you're trying to train or people that have been in it.
Right.
And as a civilian, my wife can tell me stories about it, but she doesn't either. So it's weird.
Sure.
It's one of them things where people just don't even talk about too much about. Like I think in the military, you're raised up not to bitch about shit and not complain about shit, and you're gonna do shit, and that's it. And that's the mindset that my wife has. That's the mindset you have. It's a weird. It's not weird. It was weird to me. It's new to me. Being around Haley was he was very intense to me, very intense, but for the right reasons. I mean, when he did that impromptu speech about slings on the range.
Yeah.
And he was talking about why the sling should not move adjustment, why you should have it all down pat, why you should be drilling this way because the sling is as critical as any part of the gear there is.
Right.
And then he talks about his friend getting his hand blown off because he was fucking around trying to put a mag in, hung up on his sling.
Yeah.
And how do you fucking hear that whole story and then he's talking about whatever, Ed, his buddy that missing a hand now because he fucked up or whatever happened, the sling got in the way.
Yeah.
So little things, like a sling, a little thing to me is everything to that dude.
Sure.
I mean, everything. So it was very intense in that way, and it kind of had me in a different mindset, sort of. Like, I went home and immediately got my concealed permit. Like, I didn't have my concealed permit. I've been talking to you about getting it for a year, and I got it within 2 weeks of that class.
Right.
I was like, I need to be able to have guns where I want to have them, just in case. I mean, this is kind of, it could actually happen. You could maybe need to have your AK in the back of the car, and you might want to know how to use it nowadays. And it's just a weird thing.
Well, what I think is that like I don't see any scenario in where I'm ever gonna have to use the AK-47 or even my handgun. I don't anticipate any scenario happening. But the thing is you don't ever want to find yourself in a scenario that you're not trained for, and that's what people are finding themselves in. Like, it's like, oh, I never train. Like, of course, I train every day to fight. But I haven't been in a street fight since the 80s. Like, I don't get into street fights.
Right.
But I trained martial arts, whether it was boxing in the 80s, Hapkido in the 90s, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the 2000s. But I don't plan on fighting anybody. Like, that's not my thing. But my thing is if somebody puts their hands on me and they attack me, I'm prepared. Because if you never train and somebody puts their hands on you, well, now it's too late to think about training. Because you're going to go with what you got. And, the same thing with whether you're training with the pistol, with the rifle. Like, you don't want to be in a bad scenario, and now you're trying to figure out, how do I shoot this gun?
Yeah, there's almost a responsibility to know what you're going to be carrying, to be good at something that you're going to take out, and like I said, you may have to use it one day. I'm not saying you're going to, but if the time ever came up, if you were to not know what was up, that would suck.
Sure.
And we like them so much anyways. We're already spending so much money shooting these things for fun. I now realize that you can spend $1,000 on a class and really kind of save a lot of time in your regular life figuring out how to do things the right way.
And a class can help hone you in to where now you know things you can drill on the range.
That's what I'm saying.
So
Yeah.
when you go to the range, it's
There's
more
purpose.
productive. You're not just figuring stuff out. You know, you can really practice the techniques, because that's the ideal. It's like you're not going to become an expert in 3 days of training at any course, whether it's a handgun course, a rifle course, a martial arts course, but it gives you something to work on when you get back home. It's like, okay, I know I can focus on these areas, and like, how can I get better? You know, and yeah, like, I
Just
get
the
better at
sighting,
rhythm
just the
shooting.
sighting
Yeah.
process, we're going to be able to take out a lot further,
Yeah.
figure out and know exactly what we're doing. We'll probably now, when we go sight in a gun, it'll probably be the only thing we do that day. It might take 3 hours to
Maybe.
sight in a gun now the right way,
Right.
with all the walk-ins and outs, and you know what I mean. So it's just a lot to it that I've never even thought about before, let alone knew.
Yeah.
And you've been trained out the wazoo on weapons and stuff over time, but for me, I mean, I'm always the dude with the gun. I'm never the guy who's not the guy with the gun. I'm always the dude who's figuring it out on his own. I'm never the guy who's getting told what to do by somebody, because I'm the one who has the guns. I'm taking them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I'm the one who's promoting the shooting usually. So it's nice for me to be able to go and practice a drill where I'm trying to practice my offset at 3 feet quick and bring the gun up and just snap a round off or hit that one target. I mean, when we were doing that 1-inch target,
Sure.
that was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he got us all the way down to a 1-inch target.
Right.
So, you know, that's a pretty awesome thing. Offset and hit a 1-inch target. You know, you had to have it above 3 inches or whatever. By the end, you knew where that offset was.
Right.
Because, so it's just so much that we were able to pick up, and just meeting everybody and meeting Travis, and you know, I'm not
Jim
saying
Fuller.
I'm not saying we're friends or anything, but I'm still talking to Fuller regularly on Instagram, and you know, those guys, we can call them for a reference on what should I do with this? If there's a problem with my gun, I think we can call them and get answers. Like, I think that you could not only get equipment, but you can get answers for the equipment, especially being from the class. And there's a discount you get if you take the class, a lifetime discount with them. And I mean, it seems to be a win-win-win-win-win across the board. I could not highly recommend it.
Yeah, I highly recommend training with Haley Strategic.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably take both classes again next year. Probably the same two.
Really?
Like, take the first one again and try and be in better shape for it.
Yeah.
Like, try and run a little more, because the second class is even harder.
Yeah.
And the low light class. So I'm planning on probably taking them again or something.
Right.
Something with them, because we're close enough that we can drive there. And so I just a super fun time. And the drive back, we had a crazy fun trip on the way
Yeah.
back.
Picked up some cool souvenirs because, well, first we stopped off at the CZ Custom Shop, and we got to meet
Angus Hobnell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Okay, so Angus is like the best shooter CZ's ever had. I've been talking to him online after I got my AO1 LD, and this dude's like one of the best shooters on the planet.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've been talking to Saad about this. Saad and me are CZ guys. I'm like, hey man, Angus' shop's in Arizona. I don't think it's that far. Turns out it's like 40 minutes on our way home.
Yeah.
So we had to go by it sort of to get on, to go home. So we go into Angus, and sure enough, Angus is right there, and you know, he acknowledged that we've been talking for months, and me and him went back and forth, and then Saad started asking him questions, and I got a pretty good picture of you and him, and he started showing us all the guns and telling us about the shop, and it's just a cool building in the hood, like exactly what you think a tiny custom shop would be. It's three dudes.
It's literally in a warehouse. You know, he's in a warehouse district, just an industrial area, and just, you know,
no windows,
building guns,
gray wall with a ghost on it, and it says CZC, and that's it.
Right, yeah.
That's all. It's just a ghost and CZC. That's it. I'm like, that's it, man.
Yeah, the people in Arizona are probably totally oblivious to the fact that, you know, like, they have this legendary shooter that's running, you know, just a custom shop out of this warehouse.
He's from Europe, and he came to America to make custom CZ guns the way he made them for when he was a shooter.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he developed the Shadow for CZ, and then they did the production version of that, and he made the AO1. That's his baby,
Right.
and that's a hand built gun, and all the guns there he hand builds. So there's 3 dudes at that shop, and I think one comes out and runs the register. He's probably been there like 30 years,
Right.
and the other one comes out and he's in the back building. We met that guy. He's
Yeah.
probably been there 45 years,
Probably.
and then Angus probably been there 50 years or whatever the time frame is.
Sure.
But there's only like 3 dudes in there, I think.
Right.
But it was cool because they had a T-shirt to fit,
Yeah.
and they had all the mags I wanted, and the gun well, and the gun looked sick, and my holster, and it's up there, and it just that worked out really good. I mean, I was so excited about meeting that dude. And,
Absolutely, that was cool.
and then we went to this.
Because we passed Tombstone, Arizona, where the legendary, fight at the OK Corral, with Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, and got me some cool coffee cups.
Yeah, Saad wanted to stop and get something for the family,
sure.
and we I didn't see the ads for this place, but Saad said he saw some ads for some place.
Yeah.
And he's like, "There's some place coming up here. It's supposed to be pretty badass." And I'm like, "Okay." And we pull off, and dude, it was sick. It was like 100 yards of souvenir type stuff. It was cool. It was everything you could imagine, from fireworks to exactly what you would think in the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
I mean, nowhere.
Because I knew my wife didn't want like a Haley strategic shirt or any of the gear from Haley, so I'm like, I can't bring that back. But when I saw the Tombstone and with the souvenir shop, I'm like, I'm gonna get some cool souvenirs there. So we go in, and we're actually in New Mexico at this point, and because Tombstone is there in New Mexico, Geronimo is from New Mexico, and Pancho Villa had some excursions into New Mexico also. So, 3 really famous guys, who did some stuff in New Mexico, and I got a coffee cup for each one of them. And
That's awesome.
And then one of the tribes there in New Mexico made a special coffee cup with like a mother's love type art design, and I got that for Sway, and because she's a wonderful mother, to our children. And 2
times we got pulled over by Border Patrol, once on the way out and once on the way in. That was really strange.
Sure, because if you, I've never driven along the border, so it was weird to hit border checkpoints that are in the United States, because at first when we was going through and being directed through, it's like, hold on.
What the hell's going on?
Did I take a wrong turn? Are we going into Mexico?
I thought it was a DUI checkpoint.
Right.
We're off the highway all of a sudden. All of a sudden, there's like lights everywhere, and we're off the highway.
Right.
Surrounded by Border Patrol.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck is going on, Saad?
Right.
And Saad just waved at him, and we did not look Mexican. They
like,
waved us right through.
Yeah, they asked, "Are you U.S. citizens?"
Yep.
Yes, I am.
Click. They started taking all kinds of pictures of the car.
Yeah, those pictures of the car are taken.
Yeah, they make you stop in front of a Camry.
Sure.
So they're probably dude, strange.
Yeah.
Strange to me. But then we got back and we pulled off to one place and got gas at a place that was closed. I'd never done that before. The pumps were open, but the store was closed down.
Yeah.
And we were almost out of gas then.
Yeah. Because the Prius gets over 510 miles, to a tank. It gets 51 miles to the gallon. But I was about at a quarter a tank, and then there's a long stretch of Texas where there's like nothing.
Nothing.
There was no gas stations. And now I'm on E, and I'm like, holy shit, I have got to find me a gas station. Because, shit, I don't even know. I haven't run out of gas since I was a teenager. I'm like, holy shit, what am I going to do if I run out of gas here in the middle of...
You're never going to live it down. I'll bring it up every episode.
Yeah. So, I found a gas station. It was closed, but I knew that it would still take the credit card and give me gas. And it did, and so I avoided disaster. It's like, I couldn't imagine just being stranded on the side of the road.
I would give it if I had to rate the trip and the experience, it was a solid 10 out of 10 for me.
Oh yeah, it was a perfect trip. I had such a blast.
It was so much fun, man.
Because I knew we was going to meet Haley and train with him, but didn't expect to meet Jim Fuller.
No, and not talk to him for 3 days.
Angus, from CZ,
yeah.
Those were like added bonuses that we weren't expecting. Didn't realize that Tombstone, New Mexico was on our trip on the way back.
Yeah, we could have actually probably hung out there for a little bit.
Maybe the greatest movie ever made, Tombstone, Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, with the Cowboys and Doc Holliday. And, man,
I'll be your
freaking
Huckleberry.
phenomenal. Yeah.
Sick movie.
Freaking phenomenal.
I have to watch it again. I've only watched it probably about 20 or 30 times, and it's like I could watch it again. It's just a great.
Yeah, I mean that's a great way to end it. I mean, I think everyone should watch Tombstone.
Yeah.
Get an AK-47 and train at Haley Strategic.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, I couldn't. As two guys that have, Saad's had a lot of training.
Mm-hmm.
I've had no training. So from a guy with some experience running the gun and a guy with no experience running the gun, I was thoroughly impressed, and Saad likes it too.
Yeah.
So
It was great.
yeah, highly recommended. We'll probably refer to it quite a bit in the future. I mean, it's just a fun time, and yeah. Anything else you want to talk about?
We may be offline for a little while because Stomp is getting surgery.
Yeah,
Coming up.
definitely. Next week I can do it, but maybe the week after, maybe.
Yeah,
but I might be able to talk and do everything by then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting my shoulder rebuilt on next Friday.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, there's not going to be no more bike stories for a while. No
Right.
more shooting stories
Yeah.
for me. I'll talk about Call of Maybe I think I
we
think I can
definitely
play.
won't be doing any podcasts with Stomp Pound Narcotics. So,
It might be fun.
I don't think the world's ready for that.
Maybe.
We'll get banned from YouTube. Stomp's already got banned from Facebook. That's not, damn.
That was
We
just
get banned from
broadcasting a little race. They
Yeah.
kicked me off for weeks.
Yeah, apparently they didn't appreciate it.
They did not.
Yeah.
They did not. I'm a controversial figure in the YouTube world
Fair.
now, or in the Facebook world, I
Yeah.
guess.
Nice.
All right, we're gonna call it a day.
All right.
Have a beautiful week, guys. Stomp strong.
Cool.